Elite Dangerous Odyssey is the biggest expansion ever to arrive for the game. Unfortunately, it's not arrived flawlessly. I think that's pretty much to be expected with any big update, but I think with Odyssey, it's got more than its fair share of bugs. Now, depending on where you look, you'll see different people talking about different problems, maybe glitches with the missions themselves, bugs in general, graphical glitches, the ongoing server issues, disconnect issues, and the obvious poor performance issues that are plaguing many people. Now, you probably know me quite well by now. I'm a huge fan of planetary tech and exploration, so it made sense that for me, I'd want to explore the planets. You saw in my previous video some of the very nice looking planets and a few of the not so good looking planets. And I've spent quite a bit of time looking at various areas of the game and just wanted to put together this quick video to point out some of the really nice parts about the planetary tech that's available so far and some obvious flaws. Now, the good news here is that I spent some time with a good friend of mine, Stuart GT, and we figured out a few things of what appear to be going on here. So on the screen, this is the system map. You can see this planet has 0 atmospheric pressure and 100% neon. Now you might think with 0.00 atmospheric pressure it shouldn't have any atmosphere at all, but you can see on the screen there the blue halo says it does. Yeah, there's 2 rings there, one half-light circle which tells it's a landable planet, and the blue halo which tells us it's got atmosphere. But as you can see here, the planet is rendering in completely wrong. There's no atmosphere here, and I'd hazard a guess that the surface tech is also not rendering correctly. So if you're seeing some of these ugly planets like this, and I did see a few of them in my previous video in the nebula around Colonia, as well as around Sagittarius A, it seems as though they're not working correctly. Moving on, and to prove the point that worlds with an atmospheric pressure of 0.00 do indeed actually contain an atmosphere, or can contain an atmosphere, we're going to look at these planets. So 0.00 atmospheres here on the surface pressure, and an atmosphere type of 100% ammonia. So straight away we can see that this planet has indeed got an atmosphere, and the surface also looks really nice. Some great atmospheric scattering effects as well. So I landed on this planet yesterday and it had a completely blue sky. At that point the sun was very high in the sky, and I think that's why we got some blue scattering. But as we come into the planet here, have a look at the horizon. When the local sun gets close to the horizon, as you get towards sunset, you can see it starts giving us a sunset effect. And in the case of an ammonia planet, a world with 100% ammonia content for the atmosphere, you can see that makes things go very red. In fact, you can see the transition here from the orange type bluish greenish hue to complete red as we get down very close to the surface. So in all those images we've seen from Frontier, the ones which have shown red atmosphere, it's not really because the world has got a red atmosphere, but rather because it's got a red sunset, and there we go. I'm sure then that there's an entire variety of different coloured skies out there for many moons and many planets, but the key part of finding those appears to be looking for the sunset section of the planet. So, 2 points so far. On some worlds, the atmospheres don't seem to be switched on or don't seem to be rendering, and on those same worlds, the surface features also don't seem to be rendering correctly. Elsewhere, if you want to find some sky variety, then you really need to look for sunsets, and here's the same world with the sun higher in the sky. And as you can see, the sun's position relative to you makes a huge difference to the coloration of the sky. And this of course all comes down to atmospheric scattering, both of the Rayleigh scattering type as well as the Mie scattering. Another location here, again giving us a bit of a different example. What we've learned so far then is that there's some very nice looking planets out there and some very poor looking planets. The poor ones, it appears, down to glitches, bugs, or something just not switched on. Whether it's intentional or not, we'll have to wait and see. It may be switched off currently for performance issues, or it may just be things not quite working correctly. There is a third issue though, and this one affects the good looking planets. I think no one will argue the point that this actually looks really nice from up here at this distance. However, when we get closer down to it, it's not so great. The atmospheric scattering, I think, is what caught my eye the first time round, and that does look nice, but the planetary surface there leaves quite a lot to be desired. There's definitely some issues going on there, I think. very thick bands from the impact crater spreading out, and also the repeating textures don't look too pleasant either, and quite a bit of pop-in. Now, one thing you'll also notice if you land down on the surface is that the quite impressive rock scattering system that was used during Alpha appears to be missing. And here's another example of planetary surfaces not looking particularly great. Not sure really what's going on here, but it just looks very flat and very muted. And one thing I think many people have noticed, I've seen other people point this out, is that all the great surface variety seems to have gone. That's the deep chasms, the canyons, all that other sort of great terrain geometry is just no longer present. Instead, we've got these rather bland looking flat surfaces. Again, I'm pretty hopeful that this isn't the final product. I'm hopeful that this isn't intended and that it's just a case of getting something fixed or throwing a switch somewhere. Maybe it's something that'll take time, or maybe it's something that will come sooner rather than later. But just look at the front of the ship there. You can see the surface slowly loading in. Not ideal. There are plenty of worlds out there though that show the potential of what can be done with Odyssey, so hopefully we'll see more of this and a lot less of the other bland type planets. And just want to have a look at this one once more before we end the video. But you know, we're going to end on a kind of a positive note by showing something that looks really good. But also we're going to end on a bit of a negative note, because honestly Odyssey should not have been released in its current state. It's quite clearly not ready for released state, despite the fact that yes, Frontier will get things fixed. I've got every confidence in them that over time all the current issues, all the major ones at least, will be completely rectified. But how long that takes? My guess is that will all happen by the time the console release happens, which effectively makes the current release of Odyssey a beta. And people have paid a full retail price for this product. They haven't paid for a beta release. So getting to what is in all intents and purposes a beta, but without the label as a final released product, is far from ideal. And yeah, very disappointed, and I don't believe Frontier should have released it in this state. Equally, I do believe they will get it fixed, but ultimately that's not really the point, is it? As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.